Network Entertainment.
So I would give the same advice to anyone, whether they're in a pageant or not. Your time to practice public speaking is any conversation that you have, right? Chica time is Q&A time, mama. That's it. Like, are you engaging with somebody? Are you looking them in the eye? Are you trying to connect with them? And why not do that exact same thing in front of millions of people? It's all it is. Q&A is a conversation. Public speaking is a conversation because no one wants to be talked at. They want to be part of the discussion. It is not how loud your voice is. It is not even, I think, sometimes the word choice. It's just be heard.
Right.
The volume doesn't matter. What matters is that you say your piece. And sometimes it can change a mind, but at the very least, it takes a weight off of you and you can do it again the next time.
Hi, this is Mirza Season. Welcome to You Can Do This, a podcast that'll help you achieve your dreams and goals one episode at a time. What are you waiting for? Let's go! When was the last time someone asked you a question that completely stumped you and caught you off guard, so you just froze? Your mind went blank, you couldn't think or speak fast enough, and later, you wished you had come up with a clever comeback. What if you could learn to stay calm, confident, and articulate no matter what question is thrown your way? And if you've ever made fun of pageant candidates who stumbled during the Q&A portion, what if you were suddenly under that kind of pressure? Could you honestly deliver a poised and powerful answer in 30 seconds or less? In a swimsuit, today's guest can teach us how. One of the country's most sought-after pageant coaches, she has helped over 400 beauty queens, including top title holders like Stacey, Gabriel, Bea Gomez, Pauline, Amelinckx, master the art of answering high-pressure questions with grace and confidence. As the founder of Cali Communications and Coaching, she also empowers professionals in sales, leadership, real estate, and politics to speak powerfully on stage, in the workplace, and beyond. She holds a Juris, is that how you pronounce it?
Juris Doctor.
A Juris Doctor or law degree. Yeah. Is a gender equality advocate and is Miss Universe Philippines Pasig City 2023. Please welcome Callie Navea-Huff.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Callie. I'm so happy you're here finally.
Me too. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit sad it wasn't in Pasig, so I could call you my constituent. But we're close enough. It's okay.
Close enough. So it's pageant season. You must be fully booked.
I am. Right now, we're in the midst of Bini Bini Pilipinas.
Right.
So I do have a couple girls competing with that. Miss Universe Philippines just ended.
Right.
And we have... I have one girl going internationally right now, so it is a little bit booked.
Wow.
But booked and blessed, of course.
Impressive. So you're a beauty queen yourself. Tell us just how nerve-wracking it can be being up there on stage with thousands of eyes on you. How is this feeling different from, let's say, being in front of a boardroom or a panel in an auditorium or giving a speech or a media interview with tough questions?
I would say, honestly, it is a lot more stressful because not only do you have to consider each and every word coming out of your mouth, you have to do so while thinking about how you look, how gracious you are, how open-minded and warm you are. There are so many other factors, I think, and a lot of Filipinos can attest to the fact as well that we do hold a higher standard to our beauty queens than we even do to our public servants for some reason.
Gosh, yes.
So it is very, very stressful. Like I myself had faced a lot of comments about my weight, about how even my degree in law, even my advocacy, all these different things that are constantly weighing down on you. And so to have that opportunity to finally just even for 30 seconds say your piece, as freeing as it can be, it also is a lot of pressure because you only have 30 seconds for somebody to determine your intelligence, which is just...
How can a law degree weigh down on you?
I had a lot of people really, you would be surprised, the comments. I remember there was a comment saying that she thinks that she's so intelligent because she went to law school. And I'm like, oh, mama, I really don't. Like if you had seen the other kids in my class, you would know I do not feel smart most of the time. And other comments as well about my advocacy not being not shouldn't be talked about because it was something that I think a lot of women face, which is anti-violence against women and their children.
Oh my goodness.
So coming at it from the legal perspective as well as a personal experience, to have those two things together, a lot of people were just not very happy with, because apparently we're supposed to only talk about trauma when we're healed and everything. So yeah, a lot of pressure, definitely.
Oh my gosh. So tell us how you got into pageant coaching and public speaking coaching.
I would say it was a little bit of an accident and a little bit intentional. The accident part of it was, interestingly enough, I actually was not a big pageant fan prior to me starting coaching. I was always a fan of Q&A, because if you don't know anything about pageants, if you don't know how the walk is supposed to look, you'll look at the transcript the next day on Rappler or an Inquirer, or whatever it is, and you like to pick apart their answers. So that was me as well. Now I do it with a little bit more grace with understanding the girls. But I was working at a gender desk, and I was doing gender sensitivity trainings for workplaces. Yes, here in the Philippines. I was for workplaces and schools. And I was very lucky that a good friend of mine had invited me in to talk to some of the girls about women empowerment, about terminology especially that is appropriate, and just the current situation in the Philippines facing women in the LGBTQIA plus community. And that's kind of how I got started. And I just kept staying. They couldn't get rid of me. And I just kept learning alongside them. So it's kind of the accident part of it. And the intentional part of it is I've always been somebody very interested in just helping others kind of frame their message, or whether it be like the girlfriends and we're all trying to come up with the perfect text with a boy or whatever. And even in like college, I would help train, and I was also part of student council. So just little things I think were very intentional. Of course, law school as well did help with that background.
So were you always so articulate and eloquent?
No, I don't even think I am now. So I appreciate the assumption in that question that I am.
Well, you are coaching people to be so.
Well, you know how some people say if you can't do it, teach. But anyways, I was a very, very quiet kid. I loved to read. So I feel like my eloquence, if I may call it that myself, does come from that. My father is also somebody that really is very intentional with his words. And so I was very lucky that growing up, he had always told me to be more succinct, more concise, to push me to be better.
Early training.
But I also, it's not a gift, it's a discipline. It really is. You got to work at it every single day. It's
so you're not born with it. You develop it.
It is crafted. It is forged. It really, really is. I think you do have to put yourself in those situations to be tested. You do have to put yourself and simulate pressure, simulate even just, I don't have to simulate anxiety. I have anxiety, but simulate those situations and constantly push yourself, because I've always been a natural introvert, but I put myself in situations to speak my mind and to say my piece, because I know my experience matters. So it's not a natural thing. It really was forged, for lack of a better word.
What do you mean by it was forged, besides the training from your dad?
Forged through fire, definitely. There's been times, I'm sure somebody has a video of it somewhere, of me in like student council debate, and I just completely froze in front of an audience of at least 1,000 people. And it was scary. It was horrifying. It was embarrassing. But the next day I picked up and I just told myself that's never going to happen again. And I'm very lucky that it hasn't. It's also been forged through the experiences of the women that I've talked to. I think a big part of communicating and public speaking is actually listening, learning from other people. So forged through the experiences that those women have had, both good and bad, and learning from them as well. So forged through fire, forged through just experience, through time, all those things. Yeah.
Wow. What are the most common fears or mental blocks that people go through when they're put on the spot?
Nerves, definitely. Just in general. Everyone gets that fear of public speaking. And that fear is very, very powerful, more so than what is said after. So nerves, and I would say definitely that they would say the wrong thing. But I'm a big believer that I probably have only heard of the hundreds of girls that I've coached, and of each girl, thousands of questions, I probably have only heard one answer I actually truly did not like.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just, there is no wrong answer in my book because every single answer is from your experience. How can your experience be wrong? Right. How can what you've seen in the world be wrong? There might be another perspective. Maybe you can expand your worldview, but as long as you can justify your experience and share that story, technically it's not wrong. Right. So I think it's just that fear of people judging you and just the nerves in general and talking to an audience of thousands, for some of the girls, millions of people.
And for our case, there's a fear of English.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you begin to address that?
I would say English is a tool and not a trophy. Right. It is one of many, many means to get a point across.
Right.
As powerful as body language is, as powerful as a song is. There's so many other aspects, I think, of how we communicate with other people rather than the specific words we choose or grammar or whatever, that can get a point across. I mean, we've seen incredible women like Miss Universe 2020, Andrea, not be strong with the English language and still be so inspiring because you can tell from her empathy, from her how she gives her heart to other people. I always tell my girls, it's not a vocabulary competition. It's not a grammar competition. And it is just about how you're able to share who you are. It's about truth, not perfection.
And maybe because the expectations for the Philippines in particular is that everybody has to speak it. And what do you tell your girls about that?
I would say relatability is probably the most important thing in a pageant queen now. I think it's what differentiates them from maybe models or actresses is that they are now tasked to lead for some reason, they are tasked to lead a country forward, not just in Miss Universe, but in advocacy. There's high standard. And relatability does come with more Tagalog. Right. So I actually would encourage them to speak more Tagalog or more of their local dialect to connect more with people because that's what it's all about. So it's not a grammar competition. It's not a vocabulary competition. It's about getting a singular message across. And as long as you can do that, you'll be fine with the rest of it.
Right. And for your non-pageant students, what do you say to them about this? And I'm sure this is also a fear that they have because like in the workplace where they're expected to deliver presentations in English.
Yeah. Again, one clear message is all you need. If you need to practice that clear message in English because that's the expectation in the workplace, then you can. And from there, we just look at like the little points we can get. So I know you had Stacey Gabriel on your podcast, and I love her. She's one of my, I shouldn't have favorites.
She quoted you so much.
She did? I know. I pretend like I did. She's so sweet. And she talked a little bit about our structure that we work with, which is message, why, end. That's it.
Right.
So as long as you have that one clear message, and if it has to be in English because of the expectations, then go for it. Your whys can be little explanations, whether it be a personal story, a connection to a data-driven point, a connection to an advocacy or something you've seen or done. Then those little things as well can also be practiced. As you further elaborate, of course, that may dip into the Tagalog aspect. But it is all about just making sure that you always go back to that main message. Am I still staying on theme? Am I still staying on the general point in English that I want to get across?
So walk us through a sample Q&A with that framework.
Yeah. I would say one of the stressful questions that a lot of girls think about still is the Boya Bunda question in Bini Bini Pilipinas 2021, I believe, which is when is it okay to not be okay? When is it not okay to be okay? I think that's the question. I still get confused by it. And I'm going to use that example because it is one of those questions where you don't even know where to start just because the framing is confusing. At least it can be somewhat analogous to somebody not being fully well-versed in English. So when is it okay to not be okay? And when is it not okay to be okay? Very clearly, it's about mental health or it's about you embracing your emotions. So the message can be very clear about maybe toxic positivity. So you can start with that. Then you go into your why, which can be your personal story. And so I would say something like, I think that when people allow themselves to feel as they truly feel, not how society tells them to feel, then that's when they'll be okay. That's when they know, because they're trusting themselves.
Right.
So you can maybe end with a little end on message of hope or call to action or whatever our many, many different styles is. But I'll end with something of message of hope, which is, and I would encourage people to not only feel their emotions, but to reach out to others and spread not just joy, but also spread the knowledge that emotions are what drives us forward and what allows us to not just create genuine change in our society, but also change in ourselves. So something along the lines of that message, why, and just to make the whole thing more cohesive and not just succinct, but also that there's that clear idea all throughout. Because 30 seconds, I mean, that's nothing.
Right.
How are you able to change somebody's mind in 30 seconds? If you can just change, even just give them one little idea, then you've done your job.
What do you think Stacey's strength was?
Oh gosh. I hate that question because I can only say one. No, she has so many strengths. First of all,
No, I mean in the Q&A, like she was so.
Even in Q&A, I could think of 20. She's so joyful.
Right.
She is so joyful, and so I said earlier as well to you that I do learn a lot from my girls, and that's one thing I really learned from Stacey is just embrace that joy because people respond to it so well. I mean, she's just this little ball of light. If you watch also her closed door interview, she's smiling that whole time. She's laughing, and that's how she connects with people. Is that whether you are a pageant queen or whether you are in a boardroom, people aren't rooting for you to fail. They're just kind of being told you can direct their energy. Okay. And Stacey's very good at directing people's energy on being happy to see her, being happy to hear from her. And I know that she laughed a little bit in her Q&A in order to save some time, but it came across very confident and joyful. And that's just who she is. I told her as much as possible, my goal for you is just to show your warmth. And so however you're going to do that, I trust you. So that's one of her many, many strengths is just her pure joy. Yeah.
Right. And what have you applied from being like a law student that you can apply to your coaching for public speaking?
Actually, the message, why, and structure is very, very similar to how we recite in class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we call it or even do our essays or our exams, is called the Amelinckx method, which is, I know, not the K. Don't worry, it's not a K. It's answer, legal basis, analysis, conclusion. So you have to come up strong. Yes or no. Right. Legal basis, this is what it says in the law, or this is a data-driven point. Right. Analysis, which is this is how it's applied in the situation, and conclusion, reiterate. Right. So it's very similar to that in that, again, there's that clear message all throughout, your yes or no and your reiteration, because an answer can go a million different ways in 30 seconds, unfortunately. Right. But as long as you have that conclusion all throughout, then it becomes more cohesive. Right. And obviously, of course, the application to the situation as well is relevant.
So what if you really don't know the answer?
Ooh, okay. So I'm going to give one of I call them the fail-safe methods. Okay. I would say engage in dialogue. And I kind of picked this up from Maria Gigante, who is now Miss Universal Woman. She used to say a lot in her answers, open and honest conversation. And I loved that. I thought it was such a powerful ending. And we tended to expand it to fit in situations where you might not even know what the topic is about. Something as stressful for some girls as black sand mining in Zambales, for example. Yes, it could be, yes, you don't know. So engage in dialogue. You look at the certain stakeholders. You look at who is affected by this. I'm sure, obviously, there's the government that might be promoting this. There are the indigenous communities that are affected. There are maybe fisher folk, maybe just in general underrepresented communities or marginalized communities. So once you identify those who may or may not be affected, whether it's pros or cons, whatever, you can just start with, I believe that we should truly engage in dialogue on this. We have to reach out to people. We have to listen to why the government is pushing this policy. We also have to hear from as well the people affected, such as indigenous cultural communities, potentially also farmers, fisher folk, anyone in the area that might be affected, and whether it's their livelihood or their very homes. And once we bring all those people together, we can definitely come up with a solution that's not just beneficial for now, but beneficial for all of us in the years to come. So I didn't actually say anything about black sand mining because I'm not going to pretend I'm an environmental genius. But I do understand, of course, the little communities that can be affected. And even if you might not know the nuances of the question, people are always at the heart of every single answer, as they I hope they are. And just to identify those communities and at least have that call to action of bringing people together and listening, that can be a very powerful answer already. So I would say number one, definitely engage in dialogue. Just also think about the value it's related to. Maybe it's a human right. Maybe it's a constitutional right. Maybe it's a personal value that you have. If there's some connection, then you can always go to that as well.
Wow. And it's applicable to most issues.
I would say, yeah. I have not found one that it hasn't been applicable to yet. I hope I don't. Or at least if I do, I hope it's not like forged by fire again, that I don't find out on a national stage. But yeah, for the most part, those do work.
Right.
Hi, I'm Joelle. I talk for a living and I'm an overthinker. Life keeps going and the questions keep coming. But I hope you find comfort in the fact na hindi ka mag-isa. Ang dami nating overthinker, no? Sa ups and downs, twists and turns ng buhay, paano kung ituloy lang natin ang paghanap ng kasagutan? Ready? Tara! This is Joelle's podcast. Paano kung? Powered by the Pod Network.
So you also train professionals, as you said, real estate, sales, politics, and leadership. What communication skills do they struggle with?
It's always maybe not just the meme and pageant queens, everybody, if you're really, really intelligent, you struggle with a succinct answer because you want to fill in all the holes in your argument. You want to make sure nobody has anything to say the next day in Rappler or whatever. So it's not about the word choice. It's knowing what to leave out.
Oh, okay.
It's not even about what to say, but what not to say. So again, just having that one clear message is very powerful for them as well. So I was very, very happy because with the recent election, a local party list I worked with won, and they were up against somebody that had been there for years and years and years. And one thing we worked with was definitely, even though they do mainly speak their local dialect, just exactly knowing what not to say, knowing that what people want to hear is, what are you going to do about this? Don't tell me about anything else. Focus on this. Right? Give a responsive response. Give me a clear answer, because so rarely do we get that from politicians. No disrespect, but I mean, it's true. So rarely do we get that from, even people in general. So just a clear response can go a long way, because clarity, it's something a lot of people do struggle with, myself included. But it's also something that people crave for. Yeah.
How do you prevent yourself from rambling? Some people speak to think, like they're formulating their thoughts from their mouth. So how do you stop yourself from rambling?
I think a very specific technique I can give for this is pause.
Okay.
Pause after each point you make, because you will determine, do I need to say more after this? Do I need to add on? And that goes back into the message. Why? And one clear message, pause. Take a break. How am I going to explain that? So once you pause, you don't look for the next thing. You don't look forward. Oh, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? You look back. So I keep telling the girls that. Pause, don't look forward, look back. What did I just say? Explain that. So it does help with rambling. It also helps, of course, with timing in a pageant. But no matter whether you're in sales, politician, whatever, everyone wants a succinct answer. Everyone wants a clear answer that they can remember. So that first thing you say, take a pause, explain a little bit more, take a pause again. Do I need to add on? Okay, I will. Continue, take a pause again. Did I explain it already? Maybe I'll go for a different angle. If I have longer time, then sure. Take another pause. Okay, I'll just wrap it up. Right? So pause after each point and don't look forward, look back.
So don't be afraid of like dead air.
Yeah, I love a good dead air. I think, and this might actually be another one of Stacey's good strengths, is she can make us silence, almost intentional silence. And I think she talked about this a little bit as well, which is the purposeful pause. Which is when you are about to say something and then you just allow people to drink that moment in. Know that the next thing you're going to say is powerful. So I just did a little sample of that. I hope that was purposeful. Stacey is very, very good at it. But
Right. And how do you avoid sounding defensive or cancelable?
I just think I'll apply first to the general public. I believe people really do want accountability. People really do want recognition that there is something wrong, that there is something, whether it's personal fault or whether it's an acknowledgement of what's going on in our society. They do want to feel seen and heard. So if you can make that happen, then I would encourage people to make that happen. For pageant queens in particular, of course, there's that incredibly tough, unrealistic standard on addressing these very controversial issues. First thing I would say is start with your why. Start with what you've seen, whether it's a personal story or something you've seen happen or your advocacy, because then your audience isn't automatically rooting against you without the yes or the no. You tell them first, this is where I'm coming from. Start with the why, and then you can end with a message. Because it's very difficult, I believe, to judge somebody from their personal experience because this is what they've seen. So start with your why first. That's one technique that we use. Another one is for pageant queens in particular. I wouldn't use this for politicians, but pageant queens, I would say don't look at the negative, but focus on what we can do more of. So for example, because your judges are very often politicians, instead of saying we don't pay our teachers enough, why not say we can continue to pay our teachers more? Okay. So look at what we can do as a society and push towards that rather than where we're failing. So controversial questions, it is very difficult because, again, that fear is a lot more powerful than anything else. But start with your why first, and then we look at the little tips and tricks.
Right. And for politicians who are expected to address the negative, what's your tip?
I mean, I would hope that they actually do.
Right.
Is that a naive hope? That's why I didn't say the party list I worked with, diba?
Right.
Sometimes it is a naive hope, of course.
Yeah.
But I would say you have to, again, hear that person, see that person, acknowledge that at the very least, a little bit of that is happening, and then go toward the action plan. As long as people feel that there is a solution, then they're not usually aggressive or anything. People, especially Filipinos, I mean, we say that we're so resilient. It's true because we are willing to accept so little from our public servants. Too resilient sometimes. So they just want to see, do you see that this is happening too? Do you see that this is also an issue? And do you have any plans at all? They just want to be heard. And if you can at least have some kind of action towards that, then I know we're, again, resilient to a fault, but very loving and just willing to do anything for our country. So as long as they see that in their politician as well, it can absolutely work.
Right. So you're a gender equality advocate.
I am.
So how do you help women claim their space in male-dominated environments? Like usually in the workplace, probably they'll be too intimidated to speak still, maybe in 2025.
Yeah. Gosh, this is such a layered answer, and I'm going to go against my own tip earlier, which is only stick to one message. First, I do think there are some workplaces where your presence is a protest. Like people
still
for some reason. So just having the power or sometimes even the audacity to say your mind is not just for you, but also the women after you, also for other people to see that it's necessary. A lot of us struggle with imposter syndrome, and I don't think that that's an internalized thing. I think it's almost a reaction on how society makes us feel.
Right.
There's so many underrepresented areas, whether it be in politics, whether sometimes even in pageantry. A lot of these queens feel like they don't have charge of their own journey. So you have to understand that your story, that your experience is not only wanted, but is so necessary. It's every year, the mold of pageantry looks different. And it's not just the look. It's also the story that girl has. It's a very unique, singular experience. So to know that your story is necessary is a very powerful tool, whether it be in the boardroom or whether it be as a politician, whatever it may be, or even a college student. you have to show people, this is what I've seen. This is what I've experienced. Is there any way that this fits into the mold? Is there any way that this can help us come at it through a new lens? I think one example is that the very first time I realized that was I played soccer for most of my life. And one of the first things I did for my community was little soccer clinics.
Oh, nice.
Which I loved. It was very fun. And I realized even then, like, oh, I have a platform. I may not have even at that time, like 100 followers on Instagram, but this is still a platform. This is still an experience I can share. Maybe change somebody's life, maybe change somebody's mind, but it doesn't matter how many followers you have or who's even listening. Sometimes it's enough just to share your experience and know that it's necessary.
Right. Yeah. And you have an inspiring message for women in general who struggle to speak or be heard.
It is not how loud your voice is. It is not even, I think, sometimes the word choice. It's just be heard.
Right.
The volume doesn't matter. What matters is that you say your piece. And sometimes it can change a mind, but at the very least, it takes a weight off of you and you can do it again the next time. Right. It gets hard. It is. I get nervous sitting here talking to you. I mean, you've had so many guests and I'm like, oh gosh, I hope I live up to it. But it gets a little bit easier each time. So it's not the volume. It's just be heard. That's it. Yeah.
And what tip do you give your coachees about nerves and confidence?
Of course, there's the mental aspect. I think Stacey touched on that a little, so I'll try not to repeat that one. Very specific tips I can give is ground yourself, both physically and mentally. Physically in the sense that when we're stressed, it usually comes out in our fingers. Like you'll notice the more answers I get stressed with, you'll see my hands moving more. Some people like to tap their feet. I can't see it on the camera, but people tap their feet. It comes out in your phalanges. So ground yourself in those areas where you know the nerves are going to come out. If you're holding a microphone, what you can do is wherever it's hidden from the public, you can kind of like press down a little bit more with your thumb. Or if you're holding, if you're standing, then what you could do is ground, put pressure in your back foot. You can find different ways to let out that nervous energy because it will go somewhere in a way that's purposeful, in a way that's intentional, and makes the rest of your body feel light. I would say another thing to deal with nerves is use those hand gestures as well to your advantage. So I think whenever we're stressed, we end up talking a little bit faster, or our voice gets really more intense. So your pace can sometimes express to people how nervous you are. Yeah. And with your pace, your hands will also sometimes follow. So I'd say work backwards. Start with your hands. Start with intentional slow motion and let your pace follow those hands. So it helps as well with my mindset of, okay, I'm relaxed because my body is telling me to relax. I mean, I don't know if you ever read that book, The Body Keeps the Score. Yeah. It's so true. So if your body is telling you to relax, then you will be a little bit more not as nervous. So backstage, I always move my hands. Okay, what's the pace I want to talk out? How am I supposed to feel? My hands can also tell me how to feel. So,
what about a mindset shift or a mantra?
Ooh. My personal mantra is actually something by Stephen Fry, the actor and many things, actually, author and many things, is that I'm not a noun, I'm a verb. I'm not some singular stagnant thing that people want to place me as. I'm a verb. So I may do this today, but I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to continue to grow with this. So I'm not just a law student, or I just graduated actually.
Wow.
I'm not just going to take the bar in September.
Oh my gosh.
I'm excited. I'm not just a law student. I'm somebody who studies the law, meaning I'm always doing that. I will always learn from that. I'm not just a Q&A coach. I am somebody who coaches Q&A and continues to learn from that and continues to try to find new techniques. So I just don't want to be stagnant in anything I do and continuously push myself out of my comfort zone and forge myself through fire sometimes.
And can we use this like right before a speech or an interview?
Everything is a learning opportunity. Right. Even if you mess up, even if you trip over your words, you just got to keep going because it will be easier the next time. And even in that moment, it's very incredibly rare for people to root for you to fail. Everyone just wants to either hear what you have to say or they're just, I don't know, maybe they're on their phone, maybe they're doing other things, but no one is actively rooting for somebody to fail or reveling in their failure. They're just there to learn. They're just there to listen to you. And when you kind of get yourself out of that mindset of, I am just a beauty queen, or I'm just trying to answer a question, but rather like, I am here answering a question. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to do my absolute best. And next time it's going to be easier, and I'm going to continue to inspire people. Then you can absolutely apply that mantra in your daily life.
It seems so hard for beauty queens, knowing that there are so many bashers and people that you actually think are rooting for them to fail. So how do you convince yourself that they're not rooting for you to fail?
Delulu is the salulu. No, I'm kidding. Delulu the salulu.
Right.
I would also, gosh, that was really even hard for me. I mean, I could tell the girls all the mental health tips. You know, I could have them, give them the number of my therapist, all the things. But I also struggled with it. And I think other than Delulu being the salulu, which is so true, you just got to protect your peace. A second thing you can definitely do is take yourself from the idea that this is about me. Yes, it is your journey, of course. But when you remove yourself from the equation about everyone's judging me on how I look, everyone's judging me on how I speak, it's an experience for your audience. It's an experience for your fans. It's an experience for your community. It's not about you. Yes, you may be the face, but the reality is you are engaging with other people. That is the very nature of the pageant. Otherwise, you can do modeling, you can do acting, you can be somebody that is not in charge of what they say. So beauty pageants and even the similarities are striking, are they not? Even politicians, it's not about you. It's just not. People aren't judging you off of the things you say. Rather, they're trying to see themselves in you. So remove yourself from the equation and think, how can I make this better for my audience, for my community? And it becomes more of an act of service than anything.
Right. So for you, what is the most important thing that everybody should remember about how one can think and speak on your feet?
That's number one, ground yourself, both mentally and physically, if you can find ways to direct those nerves. Number two, react. Gosh, some people will be like, I'm so excited to be here. Girl, what? Are you really? Let yourself react with emotions to the things that you're saying. And that goes to my third point, which is pause. Please just pause. Because when you pause, you're more intentional about each and every word you're saying. You're more present in your answer. You can smile through the words that demand it. And yes, be serious in the words that also demand that. And even just relax your face, because a lot of girls will, or anyone really, will be, even if they say that they're excited, don't let themselves smile through things. People want to be happy listening to you. So let them be happy. Enjoy the smile. Relax your face and smile through the words that demand it. So definitely ground yourself, react, pause, smile through things. And probably lastly, put yourself in those positions to fail. Put yourself in those positions.
That's a very important one.
You gotta. I messed up so many times. I'm sure I messed up today. I'm sure I misspoke so many times and tripped over my words. But you just gotta put yourself in those positions to do it and do better next time. That's it. I try to look at one little thing I could have changed, and as long as I'm 1% better than my last interview, I'm like, that was a success. Until it's 100%, but 1% each time is going to be good.
That's the best way you learn, right?
Exactly.
And most people will try to avoid those situations as much as they can. How do you advise that they put themselves in those situations where they might fail?
Again, I was very lucky that it was part accident, part intentional. Look for those happy accidents. Look for those moments where somebody as sweet as you slides into the DMs and like, would you be open to talking to me? Yeah. It's funny because a lot of girls will ask, well, I don't have time to train Q&A every day. I don't have time to do this. You have time. Your time is when you talk to your makeup artist. Your time is when you talk to other girls, when you talk to other people. That is your Q&A training. So I would give the same advice to anyone, whether they're in a pageant or not. your time to practice public speaking is any conversation that you have. Right? Chica time is Q&A time. Mama. That's it. Like, are you engaging with somebody? Are you looking them in the eye? Are you trying to connect with them? And why not do that exact same thing in front of millions of people? It's all it is. Q&A is a conversation. Public speaking is a conversation because no one wants to be talked at. They want to be part of the discussion.
Right. So join the conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Callie. I learned so much, and I shall be applying your mindsets and frameworks when I watch the pageant coming up soon.
Yes, Mini Filipinas is coming up.
Right.
Let's see, Miss Grand, of a girl in Miss Supranational. So yeah, please support them. And yeah.
All right. Thank you. Where can people follow you and know more about your work?
So I'm at Navea-Huff on Instagram. I do like to talk a little bit my work there. It's mostly in my stories. I'm always open my Instagram, so you guys have any questions. And I also do monthly hosting seminars as well. Not just for event hosts, actually. A lot of different people join, which is basically public speaking training as well. So at KALIHUFF on Instagram.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed.
Bye. Thank you for listening to You Can Do This. If you want to know more about me, visit Myrza.com. That's MYRZA.com. And follow me at Myrza Season on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate it 5 stars. Hit the follow button on your podcast streaming platforms and hit the notification bell to get alerted every time we release a new episode. Catch you at our next convo, and always remember, you can do this.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.